morning. My name is Lorraine from District 32, and I have got the absolute pleasure of having a chat this morning with Michael Worthington from the 101 Connection. How are you, Michael?
I'm very good, thanks, Lorraine. And yourself?
I am exceptionally well. Thank you, Michael. It's interesting to be doing this video with you, whereas you're doing a lot of the radio interviewing for some of District 32 members. So it's nice to keep my hand in.
Yes.
Interviewing the interviewer.
I know it feels different when you're on the other side of
It does. Always does. So, Michael, today, first of all, I'll ask you to tell us, what is the 101 Connection?
So the 101 Connection is an online radio station, and its primary purpose is to help the listeners become more successful in the areas of their lives, which is basically health, wealth, and relationships. So that's its main purpose, and it takes artists and educators from around the world, plays them in 1 hour shows, and then mixes that with some great independent music from the independent music artists around the world as well, just to give us a bit of a rest from all the knowledge.
Beautiful. So I like that mix, you know, the health, wealth, and relationships, the core of life, right?
Yes, that's right.
So, Michael, what we're going to dig into today is for any business owners or people who are out there thinking about having their own podcast or their own radio show or their own segment. What I'd love to know is, because sometimes people can just be like, oh, nope, don't want to do that. No benefit of that. But what I'd love to do is ask you to really paint the picture for business owners on how, what's involved in a podcast, why would we bother? And then I'll ask you a bit later on how, how can we use that for selling?
Yeah. Okay. So I guess the first question people say, why should I even bother with a podcast? And if you have a look at any major companies like Apple, Nike, Virgin, and you actually listen to their adverts, there actually are podcasts. They're what we would call a mini podcast. That's what an advertisement is, and they actually tell a story. So podcasting for a normal type business like mine and District 32 and members there, podcasting is a way of building your personal and business brand. And the only reason you're doing that is one, is build the value of your business. So when you go to sell, your business actually grows in value. It gives a perceived extra value to your products and services above people who aren't podcasting, and gets customers to choose you before they choose your competitors. And they are the three top reasons why you do podcasting. It's all about building personal and business brand to achieve those three objectives.
And do you find that when people come to you for, to explore what you do at the 101 Connection, and because you've got the people with their own shows, and then you've got interviews that you do you find that people understand the breadth of benefits through doing it?
I think they have an inkling. I think people are pretty smart. I think the challenge becomes how. And what they see is, people like Joe Rogan are doing 3 hour podcasts, and they go, oh my goodness, I couldn't do that. And then they look at some of these guys doing podcasts, and they're on there for an hour, and if you're a business person running your business, to suddenly come on and go, now every week I've got to do an hour show, and realize a 1 hour show probably takes about 4 hours in production, editing, scripting, and so forth. I think it becomes an overwhelm. So then they get a second option, and they're to do, I tell you what, I'll write my story and do it properly. So it actually is an educational marketing piece. And I'll become a guest podcaster. And guest podcasting can be traditional radio. I mean, that's just a podcast, just traditional radio. Or they can go on other people's podcast shows. And there are agents there that can get them onto those positions. I know District 32 has such a person working in there that can achieve that for them. And then some people say, that's hard going, and I don't get to sell off it, and I don't get what I want to achieve, which is increased sales. So my vehicle is saying, look, you do traditional advertising. And yes, say a John Hughes advertises on my show, but he's already got a really established brand. So an advert really works well from a 15, 30-second up. But if you come on our show to do an advert, then you should also be doing what we call mini podcasts. And these are 2, 3, 4 minute, just top tips. So you're educating your client on just one particular item. You're mixing 10 of them, mix them into your weekly advertising program on a radio like ours. And there are other radios doing this, obviously, as well. And that's where people, they hear your advert, they say, oh, I know this person. That's the person I listened to the other day who told me X, Y, Z. And they're the three broad main channels for podcasting: full 1 hour shows, guest podcasting, or do mini podcasting shows that are mixed in with advertising.
Yeah, okay. And
Mm.
I think it's important for people to know that that just becomes part of the marketing mix, you know?
Yeah, so if you had a look at companies now, and we hear a lot about social media marketing, and Peter Butler at District 32, he's absolute genius on websites and doing stuff like this. But your average business person goes, how many pieces of content should I put out per week on social media? And the answer is 150 to 200.
Yeah.
That suddenly goes, oh my goodness. But you can create that very, very easily. There are techniques to create that, especially with podcasting, and you go across 5 channels, you do 14 segments a week, you put 2 a day on each of your 5 channels. All of a sudden, you've got your first 70 without even stretching it too far. I think that's what the power of podcasting does. You can then take the audio and make it just a static. And you see districts there too do this quite often. And they'll make a statement that's just on a static placard. You do that twice a week on each of your problems. There's another 70 from one type of content you've created. Now you're up to 140. Now take away the static and maybe put just some slideshows behind there, and you've got on the same content, mix it up a little bit differently, and all of a sudden you've got another 70. So now you're up to 210 pieces of content per week. Use a scheduler, and there you go. That's the power of podcasting, is the flexibility it gives you to produce multiple pieces of content for people who like to watch, people who like to listen, and people who like to read.
Mm. And then
Mm.
there's loads of ways that you can, I always find, sometimes business owners are, if they're in the decision-making process on whether to use your services or not, having something like a published podcast or a magazine, or a book, even, all of those things add credibility to your brand. You are perceived as
Yeah.
more credible, more professional. You've got your act together, if you'd
Yes.
like. And that really helps in the decision-making process. They can be on email signatures, on email
Mm.
marketing.
It really does. Like District 32 is producing a book for its members to partake in. And those members, and some of the challenges go, how do I do this? Well, if you've done podcasts, you've got all the audios, we can just take all your top tips and just convert them into text. And all of a sudden, they've got a lovely chapter in a book. And
Yeah.
you can produce multiple books doing that way very, very easily. And then you can just reproduce those articles onto your own websites and various things like that. And I'm sure Peter would be lovely to help you in stuff like that as
Yeah.
well. And I think that's the power of an organization like District 32. When it comes to podcasts and content creation, you suddenly realize how many people can help you do this in such a way that it'll help your business grow. And that's what it's all about.
And what I also find, I don't know about you, Michael, I'm sure you do, is, if we ask a business owner to write about themselves or to tell you their expertise, not everybody is a genius in the old writing arena. But if we ask a
No,
question and somebody gets to talk about their passion and talk about their clients and how they got started,
yes.
it's a really different vibe, isn't it?
It certainly is a different vibe, and I often make the statement that, a lot of people get very good when they're networking on introducing themselves, who I am, where I'm from, who my customers are, and what's my biggest benefit of using me for them. It's just a matter of you already know that system, so you just flip that backwards for podcasting and for book writing. Why should I read this chapter? Why should I read your post? Why should I listen to what you're saying? So you just make it the number one reason why they should actually read or listen or watch this post, and then you tell them who the audience is. The difference in podcasting is a little piece of puzzle people forget to do, and that's validate why it should be you they should be listening to. And then you'll find that who you are and where you're from is really a non-event. It's those first three, and they'll automatically get to associate you and your business with that type of content. And that is the secret to flipping. And to people, you ask them questions, they're very, very quick to be able to answer you on the top reasons why people use them, what would be a benefit of doing this or to do that. And they're very, very quick at doing it. And they can do it in very quick, short sentences. And you go, there you are, you have a mini podcast. And if you
Yeah.
tend to talk a little bit longer like me, you've got a paragraph or a chapter.
Yeah. And podcasts are not going anywhere, are they?
Podcasts
There's
are just absolutely booming. There's so much money going into podcasting now. People are using it to build their brands, then they obviously associate themselves with other brands, all the way up to your Taylor Swift, just do a podcast and sell a product and make $1 billion, which is absolutely just crazy. But that is the power. It is the power of someone to get to know, like, and trust you that hasn't even met you. And that's powerful. And that's what the internet and all this podcasting can actually do for you.
And Michael, you offer people who are professionals, they can have a segment on your show if they want to facilitate their own content. Is that right?
Yes. So especially we'll start them off if they don't have any experience. We'll start them off in the mini podcasting segment. So we train them in how to write, that little 3-5 minute. And then when they've got a collection of them, we can say, okay, now let's find the common denominator being 4 or 5 of them. Let's join together. And all of a sudden, you've got a 20-minute show. And they suddenly go, oh, this is easy. So you step them through from someone who's never done it to someone who's going, they can be quite proficient. And you actually start finding, apart from running mini podcasts with us, they start getting guest appearances on traditional radio, other people's podcast show. And then if they really love that, then they can expand into just doing their own podcasting, as I said, with their own show on various platforms.
I was going to ask you how people get started, but you just told me.
Yeah, and it's really spending a couple of hours just, it doesn't cost them anything. It's just talking to them and showing them so they can make an assessment, is this right for me or not? And if it is, which one of those 3 paths should I start off on? And everyone's different. And that's perfectly fine. Yeah. It's just we give an easy entrance that they can build from. But the first stage is to actually talk one-on-one with people, educate them what this is, show them the style, see if they can do it, and then they go, this is for me, and this will work for my business. Podcasting really works for those. Sorry about the traffic going past. Was suddenly quiet, and now everyone's going, where is he, in the high street or something? Builders turn up across the road and everything. So what happens with podcasting is they really get to see whether it's right for them. And I can say podcasting is right, not for retailers, but it is right for people who educate. So if I had a health food store, it would be perfect for me because I can educate people on health. If I ran finance, I could educate people how to buy investment properties, first homes, subdivision, all that sort of stuff. If I was a business coach, I could do the same. If I ran a web development company, I could do the same. I can educate my clients, and that is where the value of podcasting comes in. It's not really selling, it's educating. And if you educate, you sell by default.
Michael, thank you very much. I think that's given people, and I've learned something today. Thank you. About how you work and how people can get started. And I think that is those little small chunks always make it feel a little bit safer for people to get started. But Michael, how do people reach out to you? How do we contact you to embark on or start a discussion about being involved in our own podcasts?
Well, anyone who's a member of District 32, they have no problems. They can contact District 32 and come that way. And other people can just come straight to me, which is just the 101mediagroup.com.au. So you can write to myself directly, Michael at 101mediagroup.com.au or admin, or just visit the website, which is 101mediagroup.com.au, and have a look at our radio station just first and see what you think of that. But for District 32 members, contact Lorraine or Dean or Ria or one of the great staff there. That's the easiest. Yeah.
Michael, thank you very much. It has been lovely chatting with you, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lorraine.
Bye-bye.